Hello, today I'm going to be talking about the Intelligent MFA feature for FusionAuth. This is a new way of turning on multi-factor authentication, which makes the experience better for your users. The first thing to show is the MFA metrics, which are now captured and displayed on the Reactor tab. And you can see here that we have the number of MFA challenges that have occurred, the number that have succeeded, and the number that have failed. And this helps you determine if your MFA settings are providing too much friction, not enough, or just the right amount. The next thing to look at is the tenant screen. And here you can see on the multi-factor tab, we have enabled debug. This will help us determine the risk signals that are used for FusionAuth's risk engine to determine if it should challenge your MFA or not. We also have two new login policies. The first is challenge on medium risk, and this challenges when an authentication event is determined to be medium or high risk. And the second is challenge only on high risk. So let's go ahead and log in and see what it would look like for a normal user. The demo user was not challenged for an additional factor of authentication like a one-time code or an emailed or texted code because their authentication event was determined to be low risk. If we look at the event log, you can see that we have a number of signals. Let's go ahead and modify our profile, and we'll also change the risk level that's acceptable and see what happens. So I've changed one of my login identifiers. I've added a phone number that I could use to log in. And I'm going to change the policy to challenge on medium risk. So I'm going to log in again. Now I am challenged for my MFA. And now I can log in. If we look at the event log again, you can see that the recent identity change signal was triggered because I recently changed my identity or the login identifier I can use. And that combination of signals now evaluates to a medium composite risk. And since I set the tenant to trigger MFA on medium or high risk, MFA got triggered. Other relevant things to look at include if I add an MFA Requirement Lambda, the context object now gets that risk score. And so you can do things in the MFA Requirement Lambda, such as excluding certain IP ranges from an MFA challenge, even if they are evaluated by the FusionAuth risk engine as having high risk. Also included in this release is an improvement to the user login suspicious webhook. The threats detected array will include any of those signals that are high that we saw in the event log. The final thing to show is the client risk configuration. And so we have these 10 signals. you may determine for your user population that some risk signals just simply don't apply. An example of that might be a tax preparation application where people log in once a year. In that case, the dormant account signal just might not apply. And by choosing to customize your risk signals, you can tell FusionAuth, ignore this risk signal entirely. That is an example of the configuration flexibility that FusionAuth allows. Intelligent MFA lets you see the MFAs that are happening, lets you customize the risk profile based on the needs of your customers and users, and it lets you customize further by turning off certain signals or using a Lambda to have your own custom logic. Thank you.